All right, this is my favorite webinar of the year. Thank you everyone for joining. Nice to see such a diverse crowd. We're pretty diverse ourselves. Hostaway became the market leader when it comes to PMS software for vacation rentals about 2 years ago in the US, and last year we became the global market leader. We currently have 300 employees in 51 countries. But as you can see here on the map, it's pretty much focused on North America, Europe, and Australia, New Zealand. But it's very exciting to see you all here. Now, this webinar, we're going to go through what we did in 2025. We realized after speaking to a lot of customers, which we, by the way, invite you to do, our product team especially, and customer success, that's what we do all day every day, speak to customers, and we realized that there's been a lot of functionality that we released that not everyone is aware of, and that's fully understandable. There's a lot of information out there, so I'm very glad you're able to join in or listen to this webinar recording to see what we released in 2025, and most importantly, what we're going to do in 2026. And to our competitors who always listen into this, I wish you warmly welcome. We really enjoy competing with you in this space. Now
Cool.
we'll hand this over to Rick.
Thanks a lot, Marcus. So it's super nice to meet you all. I'm super excited to, give a short kind of watch back on what we did last year, and of course, a lot more important, what we're going to be doing this year. I think 2025 was a very fast moving year again. We did more than 4,000 product updates throughout the year, as well, almost a new feature basically a week. Of course, one of our kind of milestones as a company is that we became a unicorn, right? We raised another $365 million that allows us to, build even more stuff, build even more functionality, and continue to kind of help you guys with your day-to-day work. But just to kind of call out a couple of things that we did in 2025, we've been, of course, focusing on our top partnership statuses, and we have some exciting stuff to share around the integrations we have this year as well, but also heavily focused on driving more direct bookings, right? So really being able to increase the AI findability, and we're going to talk about this in a second, increase the speed overall, and continue to drive up the performance for guests that want to book directly with you guys. For our, non-US kind of participants here, I saw there was quite some large spread of people from different countries here, but we've also internationalized the dashboard, right? So the dashboard, as well as the mobile app, as well as the guest portal, are available now in more languages than they were ever before. We're going to continue to add more languages through 2026 as well. We have a thriving marketplace as well with more than 60 new partners, which means that if there's a specific niche need that we are not able to help you with directly, there's almost always a partner to support with it. And one of the largest kind of releases we did last year was our AI auto replies. And we'll talk about this in a second as well. A large part of our focus last year has also been just efficiency, making things faster, making things even more easy to use. And things like the messaging inbox is something that we've made a substantial amount of kind of speed and efficiency improvements in, as well as things like load times for owner statements, as well as, expanding the functionality of owner statements with a QuickBook integration as well. When we talk about AI auto replies, we have had a large portion of people in our early access program, and we're seeing a huge amount of success for early adapters. We see that power users, save up to 89% of their messages, time, no longer manually writing it, but actually relying on Hostaway AI to kind of automatically respond to these messages. And we're going to continue to ship improvements in the AI auto reply space, as well as the wider AI set of products that Hostaway offers. Quite soon, when I mean quite soon, I mean over the next couple of days, we're launching our knowledge base for the AI auto replies as well, which means that there's even more ways for, to kind of keep facts and things related to your listings captured in the knowledge base of everything that the AI should know about your listing. That helps to offload even more messages to the AI automatically. And of course, this is always already enriched with the reservation details, the listing details, the context you've given it, and is doing it in a way that is, the way that you set it up with the tone of voice that you have configured as well. Another big factor for kind of last year, and that's the last thing maybe for 2025, is kind of AI findability. And this is a huge factor for us to focus on, right, Marcus?
Yeah, so this is the number one question we get from property managers is what do I need to do to make sure that LLMs can find me? And it's a very relevant question because out of all the industries that are going to be impacted by the use of AI, travel is one of the ones that is going to see the highest level of disruption. And we've seen quite some interesting things happen. For example, Booking.com went all in and formed a partnership with OpenAI, whereas Airbnb decided not to. And there's many pros and cons, but what I wanted to let you know is that we are in talks with all the top three providers of LLMs. And to be honest, whenever I speak to their staff, they're quite overwhelmed because there's a lot of data out there. And so far they're called LLMs, they're language models, which means they don't always have access to real-time data. But one example here that I wanted to highlight is Google Gemini. It's still not connected to all the Google systems. So for example, if you ask for restaurant recommendations, it actually often recommends a restaurant that Google Maps, which is the same company, says it closed last year. And the same thing we see in vacation rentals now. But the good news is with HostAway, if you have your booking engine, you're going to be on Google Travel, which is in the same ecosystem. So once they connect the dots there, Gemini will have direct access to all the availability data and will be able to recommend your properties. And this is what we're working on, not only for Google Gemini, but for all the other LLMs, making sure that the booking engine on HostAway easily can be found on LLMs. And if you haven't done this yet, I recommend everyone to pick up your favorite LLM and just go and ask, as a typical tourist, what would be a nice vacation home to stay in your location and see which results come up. And when you get those results, you can ask follow-up questions. You can ask, why did you choose these? What are the sources for saying these are nice homes? And that can give you a big boost. Maybe there's a newspaper, maybe there's a blog post somewhere that features some of these properties, and that's the primary source of information. You can get listed there as well if you reach out to whoever wrote that blog post. But I just wanted to let you know that as long as you got your booking engine published on HostAway and you're active on Google Travel, you have connected that. Our customer success team and support can help you with that. If you haven't, then you're covered for now. And we will closely monitor and discuss with the big AI companies to make sure that whenever they advance in our space, we'll be at the front. And they're also very happy to talk to us considering we're the biggest in the space.
Yeah, and part of this is not just kind of increasing the LLM findability, but liking actually make sure that, whatever we do in the booking engine helps drive conversion as well, right? So whether that is the future of agentic checkouts, which is coming as well, which is developments that we're working with kind of several partners with, like Marcus described, is also overall driving kind of conversion speed and findability from the direct booking engine, right? So this is some of the things that the work we did last year is also going to contribute to. Marcus, over to you.
All right. We had a predictions webinar. You can check the recording. It's quite interesting. I just wanted to highlight these things to make sure that everyone's on the same page. So what we're seeing right now has been for a few years called K-shaped recovery. What this means is that in areas where the travel market softens, we actually don't see a softening in the luxury segment. We see a softening in the middle and lower end of the market. And this is not only exclusive to the travel industry, it's also, for example, in real estate. But this is something to be on the lookout for if your market is softening. On the other hand, there's a lot of markets that are doing extremely well in 2026. As mentioned before, AI and the future of search, it's important that you stay on top on knowing how your properties are presented on LLMs and by AI, because you can impact that by changing your descriptions, by changing your titles. And you might, as more users start adopting AI for finding a place to stay, you might see different guest expectations than you had before. Also, booking behavior, a lot shorter lead times and shorter stays. That's something to keep in mind. If you have a very long minimum length of stay, you may want to consider lowering it. OTA versus direct bookings. Now, the interesting part with the AI is they tend to stay away from OTAs. And like I said, do the test yourself, check what you find. But this is something that clearly benefits you if you have your booking engine set up. Also, the way LLMs and also traditional search engines prioritize data these days is by looking at the brand. But the brand is less about your name and how many places you can put it in, but rather your reputation. So things like your reviews for your properties will matter even more in the future. So make sure that you stay on top of that. We have functionality within HostAway that allows you to get insights into these reviews and see trends when things change. Also, regulation and advocacy, you need to be proactive. This is something that is constantly discussed everywhere in the world, and things can change dramatically. Make sure you're not just monitoring what's happening, but that you're actively vocal in your local community.
And I think that's a very nice segue into not just the future of the SDR market in general, but also the future of Hostaway. And I think I want to, before I start showing stuff, I want to maybe take a step back and set some context, right? So, like Marcus said, over the last 10 years, we've been building an amazing product that now is the largest in the industry. But I think also comes with a moment of reflection, right? Like what's working well, what isn't working well, where should we focus on our efforts on the next couple of years. And I think over the last couple of years, it's been very clear that we've been shipping a lot of very valuable functionality, but realistically, it's also been stacked on top of each other, right? It's been quite a lot of functionalities, quite a lot of features. I showed before, we did more than 4,000 releases just last year. Can you imagine how much that is over 10 year combined? And I think for 2026 and beyond, we kind of took a step back and tried to really understand for us, like, where do we want to go? Where is Hostaway as a product and where is Hostaway as a company going to go? And that's why I'm really, really excited to be able to share with you guys today how we look at the products to evolve over the next couple of years, which is basically the introduction of HostawayOS, which is basically the operating system that every property manager needs. And of course, it's supercharged by Hostaway AI. It's supercharged by AI in the sense that it would be focused on offloading as much as work from you as possible, and is overall kind of shaping the product in a way that it's not just a gimmick, it's not just a nice to have, but it actually helps you with your day-to-day workflows. When I talk to customers, and I try to talk to quite a lot of customers throughout the week, I really try to understand how do people use Hostaway today, right? And how do they organize their teams or their processes or their standard operating procedures around running their property management business. And I think there's generally three distinct areas where we see people, rely heavily on Hostaway. One of those is to be able to sell, right? You want to be able to sell as much as possible, whether that's by managing, kind of your listings, or you want to be able to drive more optimizations in your listing content, managing your multi-units, do smart kind of commercial things in like your pricing strategies, or like just get rebookings, right? Get people to come back to you and preferably through direct channels. That's one area of basically using Hostaway to be able to sell more. The second part is manage, right? People want to be able to manage their operations as efficiently as possible. They want to be able to manage automated messages. You want to use AI to kind of have messages to be kind of automatically suggested for you as much as possible. Manage reviews coming in, manage your day-to-day operations, maintenance, insurance, and basically overall make sure that your entire operations team is as efficient as possible. And lastly, people want to be able to kind of analyze, how is my business doing? Am I living up to my full potential? And of course, things like financial statements is a use factor in this, but also a review analyzer that we shipped last year, listing quality, where is there kind of room for improvement to drive more kind of bookings through OTAs as well? And where is basically, in your entire space, where is the money going, right? How do you manage your expenses? Where is there actually kind of opportunities to improve your bottom line? And of course, all these things are built on top of world-class integrations. And these integrations are not just the top-tier partnerships with all the OTAs, like the Airbnb, Vrbo's, Booking.coms, Expedia's, Marriott of the world, but there's also a huge set of partners, right? So wherever we don't a specific type of functionality, there's more than 300 partners that integrate with us and always kind of are able to kind of give you the experience that you guys need. This is a conceptual way, right? So being able to sell, manage, and analyze as efficiently as possible to help you guys grow. But that's a set of nice slides. I very much am happy with the marketing team that took my scribbles when I was thinking with Marcus and Saber and the rest of the executive team throughout this. But I also want to make it very tangible. Right? I don't just want to show nice slides. I also want to make tangible what this means in 2026. Talking about the stacking over the last couple of years also kind of made us realize that in some areas we need to really think almost from scratch. And that's exactly what we're planning to do. There are several areas in the dashboard that we're going to be designing from scratch. And we're going to be doing this not just because what we think is best, but we're doing this based on a combination of quantitative data, being the largest in the industry. We know exactly how people use the inbox, what their kind of things are that they're trying to do day to day for the different personas in the platform as well, right? Whether you're the property manager, an operations manager, a reservations manager, or maybe a financial type of analyst kind of persona. We have data, of course, across all these personas to see what people are trying to do in the platform. Another area is basically embedding AI natively inside these user journeys. So instead of having it as an add-on product or a separate kind of thing, which is kind of intertwined afterwards with the main inbox, we actually want to lead with AI in many use cases as well. So if there's discussions around a late checkout, realistically, Hostaway already knows all the information it needs to be able to make a targeted recommendation. We know whether there's somebody checking in later, we know the cleaning status of the property, and we know the availability of the, of your calendars overall, whether it's even possible to offer, for example, either an early check-in or a late checkout. Proactively then being able to have the AI, Hostaway AI, suggest a payment link and an actual kind of upsell straight from within the inbox is already kind of a huge advantage over having to have 3, 4, 5 tabs open to cross-reference all these different things. There's going to be a webinar exclusive here as well. But at the end of the webinar, we're going to be sharing an exclusive QR code where you're going to be able to see the new inbox in action and provide actual input on, being able to shape what the future of Hostaway is going to look like. Across the dashboard, this is specifically about the inbox, but across the dashboard throughout the year, there's going to be several areas which we're going to be designing from scratch. But there's also, very transparently, there's also going to be a couple of areas which are just going to get a lick of paint, right? We're going to make sure it looks a bit more modern and a bit nicer, because things that work well, that, if it's not broken, we don't have to fix it as well. Across these different pillars, so sell, manage, analyze, and integrate, there's also a set of features that we're going to be shipping individually. To start with sell, right? So one of the requests we've gotten a lot was around multi-units, being able to attach smart locks to individual units, or even general automations, messages, or even segment the data in your financial reporting is stuff that's going to be able to be possible for all your multi-units quite soon. I talked earlier, if you're maybe more advanced and you have like more advanced pricing strategies, the ability to configure kind of refundable rate plans straight from within Hostaway is another thing that's going to be coming as part of helping you to sell more, in their different and maybe more creative ways as well. Another part is length of stay pricing, right? So setting different prices for the, depending on the duration of the stay, syncing across all the OTAs is another factor to kind of give you even more flexibility on how you're going to be able to price and sell your overall kind of, availability across the different OTAs. I talked a little bit last year about all the improvements we made on the booking engine. We have one of the largest conversion rates in the industry for converting people that get to the direct booking engine and actually make a booking as well. But there's also, I think, when we talk to customers and get a lot of feedback, I think there's also a consensus that there's quite a lot of feedback around the customization, right? And make it really be able to, exactly like Marcus says, right? Make it kind of reflective of your brand. We have customizations and there's themes, but there is also, I think, a limit to what is able to be done and configured with the current booking engine as well. Which is why in 2026, we're going to be launching a new product. It's going to be called the Advanced Booking Engine. And we're actually going to be able to give you a lot more control on how the actual direct booking website looks like and, is in the experience of what you want to give your guests. Which basically means it's going to be a what you see is what you get type editor. So, of course, it's going to be AI powered. It's allowing you to type, how you want to structure the page. But you still rely heavily on Hostaway to kind of help drive the conversion optimizations and make sure that guests still get the best experience possible. So this is another cool new product that we're going to be launching over the next couple of months, which I'm really, really keen for. And I know Josh is also really looking forward to working with existing customers to see how this could drive more value for existing customers as well. Another cool thing in Sell is that we've had a Booking.com integrations for many, many years. But this year, we're also launching our native bi-directional content sync integration, which basically means that based on top of the new Booking.com APIs, you're going to be able to manage the Booking.com content, listing content management, amenity management straight from within Hostaway. Which means it's going to be one less trip to the Booking.com extranet than what you're used to previously. We're just going to, again, make it easier to just, be more efficient with your team, push more content quickly to Booking.com, and again, being able to sell more in the end. Moving on to manage. Manage is, of course, a huge portion of the team's time spent for a lot of property managers. I talked a little bit about the unified inbox already, being the centralized control center, right? Being able to put everything in, at every context you need at the point of your fingertips to not have to go find it in different tabs at the same time. But there's going to be more stuff part of this. Sometimes it's even like quality of life, I would almost say, kind of improvements, like being able to do language translations natively within the inbox. So if the guest is messaging you in a foreign language, being able to immediately within the inbox translate it to English or whatever your language of preference is kind of one of these relatively small things that just makes, the efficiency just so much more instead of having to have a Google Translate window open next to the inbox. Another thing is guest message escalations. And this is a continuation of the Hostaway AI product suite as well. So guest message escalations is going to make sure that whatever message comes in that really should be getting attention is not, being overlooked by you or your team. Which basically translates to, hazardous conditions like urgent things like something's broken or during critical phases of the check-in journey, if they cannot enter the property, but also stuff like, hey, this inquiry is already 3 days old. Why is nobody responding to this guest that wants to stay with us? And you're basically leaving money on the table. guest message escalations is going to be something that I'm pretty sure we're going to evolve over time to really make sure it's kind of tailored to what makes sense for every individual property manager. But the focus for it is basically making sure that you're no longer missing anything that should be getting attention, whether that's from you or from your team. I talked a bit about the redesign of different parts of the platform, and a major part of it is also the guest portal. So the guest portal works, I would say, pretty well. I think it is a key part of the journey, but most importantly also is that it's one of the key touch points between the guest and you, which basically means that the way that the guest portal looks like and the way that it works is a reflection from you, and whatever is a reflection on you is a reflection on us. And this is one of the things that we kind of also want to make sure we put a little bit more love in, basically making the guest portal not just look nicer, make it more intuitive, but also expand it with more capabilities, right? Being able, if you're maybe in the European Union, to collect data from a regulatory perspective or compliance perspective, provide more upsells in a native way, and overall provide just more seamless kind of guest experience. One of the things that larger customers have asked specifically for, but I think is very relevant for many of us, is auditability. Who changed this listing? Who changed this reservation, and why was it changed? Sometimes it comes out like, hey, this is coming from a booking that this team lead or this person in my team did this change, or where does this 100% discount coupon come from? And auditability is going to be able to answer exactly that, like who did what at which point in time. So the ability to really trace back and see logs on what happened inside your Hostaway account is another functionality that's going to be coming soon as well. And then lastly, there's the analyze pillar, right? So what is actually happening in your business? And is your business also living up to its full potential, or is there things or improvements you can do to increase your review score or increase your overall occupancy? Again, as the largest PMS in the industry, we have the ability to really be able to see what works and what doesn't work for different type of customers. So one of the key things that we want to be launching in 2026 is also the listing optimizer. Really making sure that your listings comply with basically all the best practices across the different OTAs. And again, make sure that you're not missing out on, basically bookings that should be yours, all right? Whether that is because your images are not quite set up right, or maybe you're missing an amenity. And when we're talking about amenities, we also want to be able to optimize basically your listing descriptions, content based on the images you've provided. So that's not just being able to touch up images, but also are we able to maybe see based on the images you provided, what amenities you have not kind of added in your property, which should be really there. Because if you're missing an amenity, it might be a non-negotiable thing for someone to have a blender, a pool, whatever it is, a second bathroom, a cot for a small child. And if you miss out on those things, you already get filtered at the top at the OTA searches when somebody applies those filters. And of course, guest reviews, right? Guest experiences. Not all of them are always 100%. You don't always get the 5 stars. But if that doesn't happen, like, why is that? Are we able to kind of trace back like how a bad review came to kind of fruition, right? And what are the trends over time? Which is another kind of key thing in the analyze pillar. This also frankly ties back with the guest escalations, right? Because the messaging escalations. Because the messaging escalations is very much focused on preventing getting the bad review in the first place, because you draw your attention to stuff that you probably should be looking at. But if it does happen to kind of result in a bad review, the unhappy guest experience analyzer will be able to help you to see what the trends are, what the areas of improvements are, and also how to differentiate for the different listings you have. This was a very quick tour of what we are planning to do in 2026. I think also the overall approach is going to be, this is more also like partially a vision for the next couple of years of what we want to be taking the Hostaway products towards. But I think what we are super keen for is to make sure that this is not just something that we make up in isolation, which is also why we do a lot of user interviews with our product team and our design team. So I promised there would be a little QR code at the end. I want to make sure that if you are in any way interested to shape the future of Hostaway, to scan this QR code or go to the link here and basically, participate in our design studies. They will be able to show you exactly how the new inbox is going to look like. They're going to be able to kind of take your feedback into account on how it's going to be working, and basically make sure that whatever we build, adjusts and works for the different type of businesses and the many different type of property managers that we have on the Hostaway platform.